James Stanek Jr. I am now living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. My service time started, I was actually a volunteer fireman and an iron worker in New York City, and I was there on 9/11 and spent 3.5 months there, approximately. Decided that I was gonna go join the Army, and I wanted to be on the first thing going. Reported to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then we were 2 weeks later, this was after basic training and jump school, like 2 weeks later we were in Baghdad International Airport, and then we moved up into what is formerly known as the Sunni Triangle. We were up in Mahmudiyah, running patrols up there. I was home for 6 months after that tour. I then went into 18th Airborne Corps, Fox 51st LURS. That was a great tour. Got sent home, had to have my right shoulder reconstructed. Fought for 1.5 years to stay in the Army. And then they sent me up to Fort Riley, Kansas, where I was in charge of a personal security detachment. And my third tour only lasted about 8 weeks. I had broken the 4th metacarpal in my right hand. They shot me to Brooke Army Medical Center, put a plate and 6 screws, dropped me in a think tank, and then said, you were diagnosed with chronic severe PTSD, as well as a traumatic brain injury. And you're combat ineffective, and it's time to go home. Crushing to hear that phrase. Been blown up by IEDs multiple times, too many firefights to count. And, you know, the Army was a niche. I had found my niche in life. I got out as a staff sergeant, and I led troops. It's a change when you become a civilian. And I don't really consider myself a full-blown civilian. I'm a civilian sprinkled with staff sergeantness. And I think the Army really made me who I am today, the man that I am, the father that I am, the husband that I am. It's very important to me. And to never forget my service time, but to learn how to live with it. The things that have helped, number one was my service dog, Sarge. I was at Brooke Army Medical Center. I had bumped into a therapy dog. Therapy dog is meant for a lot of people. Service dog is meant for one individual with a disability. Well, I bumped into this therapy dog and I found myself kind of like mellowing out. And it was really weird because I hadn't felt like that since I couldn't even remember. So Lindsay was in South Carolina and she sent me a text message one day with a picture of Sarge, who was known as Cricket at the time. She was a 6-month-old little mutt. Lindsay said she had walked in, there was an adoption thing going on, saw Sarge and was like, that's Jim's dog. Sent me the photo, I sent her back, said get her, and her name is Sarge. And Lindsay had already sent back after that, already in the car heading home, and yes, I'm already calling her Sarge. And Sarge was just a truck dog. She would roll in the truck with me, we'd hang out, and she was doing things that I thought were so annoying. Like when I get fired up and I can feel the anxiety and that hypervigilance flailing, she would get up and she'd put her head like literally right here in my lap, and I'd be like, go away. And she was just trying to help mellow me out, and I didn't know this. So when we finally found trainers in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and they said, you can train your own dog. And I'm like, what? There's no way. Well, do you have a dog? Yeah, I've got Sarge. Well, tell me what Sarge does. So I started naming everything that she does that I thought was so annoying. And they were like, dude, you have a service dog, we just need a trainer. You don't even realize it. So it took us about 4.5, 5 months. 43 different skill sets that she has. My wife and I tried 9 different times to get a service dog, and I was told either not disabled enough, or it would cost me anywhere from $10,000 to $60,000. So after the 9th time the door closed, my wife and I looked at each other and she said, when are we going to do it ourselves? And we started our nonprofit organization that we now run, providing service dogs to disabled veterans who are diagnosed with PTSD and/or traumatic brain injury. And we use rescue dogs that are in shelters that the veteran selects, which is kind of a cool thing because it gives a little bit of control to the veteran who felt like they don't have any control. And then they train together, they build a bond like this. We call our program Paws and Stripes. We're based out of Albuquerque and Rio Rancho, New Mexico. I love the program that my wife and I run. We see veterans come in that are, and I look at it, it's like watching in the mirror, tattered, beat down, tired, last rope. What do I do? And then you take him down to the shelter. Then you bring that dog out and you watch that veteran's shoulders start to sink, because he's normally sitting like this and his shoulders sink. And the dog comes over and leans in on him and starts to hang with him, and all of a sudden he goes, "This is my dog." Dog's adopted, they trained together for 6 months with the assistance of our trainers. What we've noticed with the 25 guys we've graduated in like 2.5 years out of the program, the families are seeing huge differences. The wives that look at us and say, "I haven't gone to dinner with my husband in 3 years, and now I'm going out to dinner, and the dog's watching the door, and I've got eye contact the entire meal." That's when Lindsay, my wife, that's when she realized it was working. The other magical thing that I was introduced to this past June, actually, was golf. I had a very good friend of mine, who is a civilian, dropped a set of used Ping golf clubs off at my house and said, "You're gonna go out and play golf, and I'm gonna go with you." I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, but I felt a fire. There was this, something that I was lacking. The only way I can really describe it is in grunt terms. I wasn't feeling like a man, but yet on the golf course, for some oddball reason, I really felt like a man. There was like a little bit of competitiveness, but it wasn't competitive with, per se, you or anybody else I was playing with. It was an internal competition. And since June, I've realized that if I can get my mind, my body, and my spirit all in line for that split second, the shots are great. If I can't get them in check, then really I'm getting my money's worth on the golf course, because I'm seeing every inch of it. My wife has noticed a change in me. My parents have noticed a change in me. My 5 closest friends in the world, one of them that's a vet, the rest are all civilians. They've all noticed a change. I'm a little more light, I'm a little light-hearted, but they really enjoy playing now because I've taken it so serious to the point where I'm not over serious, but I'm competitive, and I want to better myself, and I'm living now to get better. When you look at the golf ball, what do you see? Truly, I see my diagnosis of PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder is on that golf ball, and I get to literally smack the living garbage out of it. The ironic part of it, that when the hole's over, I pick it up and I put it back in my pocket. It never goes away. But somehow in my mind, I hope and I pray that maybe every time I hit a golf ball, a little bit of me gets chipped up. And you learn, I can't get angry about a bad shot, because if I get angry about it, then the PTSD gets involved, and then my whole round of golf is gone. But if I can realize that it's just a game, and that I can better myself and not forget the past here. That shot was last. What's the next one? There's a new objective. It's a new mission. Hit that next golf ball. I was actually very privileged to meet President Bush back when I was in service. Our LURS team was recognized at Fort Bragg at a 4th of July event. And it was pretty cool because I got a picture shaking his hand, and meant a lot to me. President Bush, that's my commander-in-chief. He may not be in office anymore, but I went to war for that man's words, and I believe those man's words to this day. I think it's an opportunity to show people that I'm not an amputee, but there are amputees playing. They can do this. Yeah, I'm out there. I can do this. I'm not damaged goods like some people say. I came home and it was time to do something. And if I can show people that, yes, I'm 100% disabled, I don't look it, but I am, and I can play golf, and I can compete, and I can laugh, and I can have a ball with 21 other vets that, I just talked to a couple of them outside. I'm so stoked to get on the golf course tomorrow. I have no idea what to expect. This is my first tournament. I've never played in a tournament, nothing close. And I really want to be able to absorb this and soak it in. And I don't know how my memory is going to be later on in life. I have a 5-year-old son. My 5-year-old son, he came out of my first marriage. I get him during the summers. I don't ever want my boy to look at me and think I'm weak. because I don't ever want my boy to live his life weak. Don't let anybody tell you you're damaged goods. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. I tell my son all the time, you're an American, not an Americant. You can do this. And he's 5, but he gets it. And my hopes are that if my brain goes to hell in a handbasket and I can't remember anything, that maybe later on in life, as my son gets older, he can look at it and go, Dad, you did some really cool stuff. You don't have to get knocked down. Life's a ladder, and you're gonna fall. The true test of a man is, can you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back on that ladder? The other veterans that are in this tournament, that's a true testament to what this country is. You can't knock this country down, and you cannot knock its veterans down.